What is reality? A very, very simple question. What is reality? So the first answer that most people give is the reality that I experience. We're sitting in a room, I see you, you see me. Basically our sensory tools. Sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. I see things, I hear things, I taste them, I touch them, or I smell them. That's our empirical reality. So then the question is, okay, is there anything more to reality than that? And everyone will say, of course there is. There's a whole bunch of things you don't see, you don't smell, you don't taste, touch, or hear. Example, love. You don't see love. You could see an expression of love, but love itself, an idea. 2 + 2 = 4. The day is different than night. These are concepts, you don't see them, but the mind perceives them. Or emotions, the heart feels them. So there's many things that we don't experience in that. So then so then reality we see now has expanded from the sensory, we'll call it, to the suprasensory. Now, how far down the rabbit hole can we go? So let's to the next step. Conscious experiences. What about the subconscious? What about the unconscious? What about the supraconscious? And I'll just use examples from science, since we're talking science. You see objects. We all see fire, water, tables, chairs, birds, trees, whatever it may be. We all know these are made up of elements. Elements are made up of molecules. Molecules are made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of subatomic particles. And then the sub, and as I said, you go further down this rabbit hole, no one knows how far it goes. So you see now the world, that same question, what is reality, depends what your perspective is. If you want to look superficially, it's the tip of the iceberg. But we all know there's a big iceberg beneath that tip. We all know there's energy. Today we know energy and matter are interchangeable. As Einstein put it, E = mc². You take a piece of wood, you put it in a fireplace, it turns into energy, to heat, to fire, to warmth, to light. So today especially, we've become comfortable with the invisible. Just take your smartphone. How much information is in this small phone? It's hard to even imagine. How could all that information fit into a little phone like that? In the 50s, you needed to have 3 blocks of computers to contain so much information. So we've become accustomed to the fact that there's a reality that we don't see that really governs our lives. I mean, every time I turn on a television, every time I see a screen with imagery that's being broadcast from who knows where, a tennis match in Australia, and you see it here, it's simultaneously you say, how did that image get here? Split second. You see, you realize there are many forces at work. My point that I'm making here is that the word reality is exactly like climbing a mountain. If you ask somebody, what does the horizon look like? If they're standing in a valley, they'll give you one answer. They're standing on a plateau, they'll give you a second answer. If you're 20 feet up on a mountain, a third answer. And if you're on top of Mount Everest, a fourth answer. And they're all telling you the truth. Only this distinction is from my perspective. That's my answer. My answer is from this perspective. That's my horizon. So being an honest, intelligent person, whatever I said doesn't require faith. Everybody understands it today. That the world is not what it appears. What you see is not what you get. What you see is the outer surface. We mentioned before tears, crying. When you see tears coming out of someone's eyes, the physical manifestation is, yes, a little salty, it's wet. But we all know that the tears are an expression of emotion. Emotions you can't see. Tears you can't see. But no one's going to say, first I cry, then I feel emotion. No. So first the emotion and then the tears are an expression. The same thing as smile on your face. Right? The face goes into a certain contortion as an expression of joy or happiness or satisfaction. My point is that today, if you want to be an intelligent person, you have to realize that what you see is an outer surface of many more forces that are at work beneath the surface. I can give many more analogies. This is a topic that is critical. And when people hear it for the first time, they say, of course, it's a given. So then my question would be on a personal level, so what defines you as a person? Is it your outer self, your body, and your body language, or is it your, what we call our soul, the soul? Something that's not quite visible, but more important than anything else, because your body at the end of the day is a vehicle for a personality, for an individual that has feelings and ideas and experiences and pains and joys, which is of course the whole, what we call the bundle called life.
The thing that we can end on with this conversation, I think would be a really nice roundup, which is almost, it is inevitable for everybody, and that's is death. And I don't know what your thoughts on it are, but I think an acceptance of death and understanding that it is inevitable, it is coming, can be quite helpful for a lot of people, but it's a very difficult thing to do, especially again when we bring in the ego and a lot of the things that we're taught. We don't really get taught about death very much at all, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, death is maybe the ultimate grief and the ultimate tragedy, because it has that finality to it. You don't just say the word death and people right away shudder. Death sounds like the end. Someone died, they're gone, story is over. And I don't know how these pieces interact with each other, but I'll just refer to something I spoke about. But when you understand that reality is a bigger picture than just what you see, then you really come to realize death is not the end. Death is just the end of one stage. It would be the equivalent of saying, I take a piece of wood, I put it into a fireplace, and then the wood dies. Yes, the wood will no longer be wood, but it's turned into energy. It's turned into fire. It's turned into warmth, into light that continues to live on, and just in a different form. You take water and liquid, and you boil it, it turns into gas. You freeze it, it turns into ice. So you see there are many forms of the same reality. I used to always be frustrated, very difficult when people say, where did the soul of my mother, my father, my child go upon death? You know, you don't really have words. But then, I don't know, one day I had an epiphany, and it's somewhat a little funny and humorous analogy, but it works. And I said, imagine a dialogue, a conversation between a refrigerator and electricity. And the refrigerator says to the electricity, where do you go when they pull the plug? And the electricity responds like with incredulousness and says, what kind of nerve, what kind of chutzpah do you have to ask me that question? You're a little box they just invented 100, 200 years ago. You figured out how to generate and contain me, the electricity, to refrigerate food, and now you think you're the center of the universe. You ask me where I go? I've always been here. I've been here long before you ever existed, and I'll be here long after you die, because I don't occupy the space of your little box. That your little box can only see what you can see. I go back to my place, which is outside of time and space as you know it. Everyone who hears that, even people, they say, of course. I said, that's what we need to discover, that the soul lives in a very different type of domain. We're just not soul people, we're body people. So we judge everything by, I don't see it, it's not here. But that's not true. In this room right now, even if all the people left this room, it's not an inanimate room. It's pulsating and brimming with all kinds of energy. We know that today. There's no such thing as something that's dead. The word dead is not even an accurate word. Now, I'm not taking away from the tragedy of that stage ending, because I want to be able to embrace my loved one. Yes, I understand their soul lives on, and it's consoling to hear. But I want them on my terms. I want to be able to hold them. I want to be able to talk to that person. I want to be able to kiss that person. So I'm not dismissing the tragedy is that it's not in our domain, but no one ever should say, no one should ever think that a soul dies. Souls never die because they weren't born. They were here before, and they just occupy a vehicle called the body for a certain period of time, and they continue their journey. And it's very consoling. And the fact is that, yes, the soul of your son Jacob, whatever time that as he developed in the womb of his mother, lives on somewhere, hopefully through you as well. And the same is with every soul. So again, I've experienced the death of my father, so I am aware of the pain. It didn't even though I'm fully aware of the soul, I still cried. Because there's still that element that it's not on my physical plane, that it's on a spiritual plane. And we're not spirits, we are spirits within bodies. But the more you connect spiritually, the more you'll connect to the soul of the loved one. And in that sense, that never ends. Soul never dies. And the more soulful you can be on this earth, the more you connected, and the less the finality of it is there. You realize there's much more to the picture.